RO, reconstituted tap water, distilled water. There are so many different types of water, but what does that all mean? I'm James and you're watching Blue Dog Aquatics. Now today we're going to talk about RO, and if you don't know what RO stands for Reverse Osmosis Water. Now there are key benefits to having RO in your aquarium, but first off, let's see how RO is made. So if you run a commercial building, then you have to have what is called a backflow preventer. Essentially, this is a $1,200 piece of copper that all it does is, if my system were to ever siphon back, it doesn't go into city water. Tell me how that makes sense. That's what the drain is here, and you have to have this tested every year, which is stupid. It's stupid because the water that I'm actually producing is actually better than what tap water is or city water is. So I don't know what the issue would be of it actually going back into the system. But we have it coming over here. And then first off, so these are hydros. You're like, wow, that is a big RO system. Actually, this is just the first stage. So inside these big canisters here are actually two big filters. Now, different microns remove different particles, and obviously the first two, we don't want these two to remove everything right away because, oh man, the water's flow would be so slow. And you notice that we have a 1/2-inch line coming out of here, the same as what's going in. So these two are just preliminary. These would be what you would run at home under your sink to freshen up your tap water. Now, moving over, here's where we get into all the crazy. So over here, we have a 4-stage RO unit. You can see that we have a carbon with this is a 25 micron, and then we have a sediment. And this is just, I think this is, if I remember right, this is a 10 micron. And then up here, we actually have the 10 and 5 microns. Typically, these canisters are changed out once a year. Obviously, it depends on how much water you're producing. These are 200-gallon tanks, so we actually produce quite a bit of water. And then last but not least, this is actually a sediment, and this one actually goes down to 1 micron. Now, what does this all mean? Now, what it means is, as it goes through the different filters and goes through the different stages, you notice that the line gets smaller. So it goes in from a 1/2 inch down to a 1/4 inch, and then 1/4 inch, it goes down into our holding tanks. Now, with that being said though, you also have waste. So this one does a ratio of 2 to 1. So it puts out only 1% of the 2 parts that actually go out. So the 1 part is actually what goes in here. This RODI system does 300 gallons a day, but then the 2 parts actually go back in the drain. So, and I know you can't see it, but we have a drainage line. That's actually what this is hiding, is the drainage line. So you lose a lot of the water. Now, obviously, if you're running like just this, then you're not going to lose a lot. And you can actually adjust it up here. If I wanted it to flow stronger, where I was doing like more of a 1-to-1 ratio, then I could open up this valve and it would push more water through. But then what happens is that I don't get the pure water. Now, with tap water, you have chlorine, chloramines, you have things that are very bad for aquariums. You also, depending on your tap water, you could have high pH, hard water, hard GH, which is your general hardness. This system right here removes all that. And what comes in here is 0 parts per 0. So this has 0 pH, this has 0 chlorines, this has 0 hardness, this has 0 nitrates, 0 nitrites. This has nothing Absolutely nothing. Now, what does that mean for your aquarium? Now, what that means for your aquarium is that when you do water changes, let's say that you have high pH, high general hardness, high carbonate hardness, high nitrates, nitrites, high total waste or TDS, what it does is it actually reduces it. So if you have, let's say, oh man, sorry, my brain is just trying to process all the information here. But so I'm trying to look for the correct word. So essentially it neutralizes or mixes. So if you have, let's say, a high pH, what it does when you add RO water is it actually reduces that number because you are mixing in water that is pure, diluting. That's the word. You are diluting the water that's in here. So anytime you have fish, plants, driftwood, you can have raised elevations of all your different levels. In RO, typically people use RO just for top-offs because it makes it where you're doing water changes less often because it's diluting out the other parameters that are in the aquarium. But let's say that you're in a place where you have hard water, or you're just always fighting your water parameters because they're up higher. People can actually do full water changes with just straight RO, and that will dilute it out right away. The problem with that is, though, you have to be careful because with it diluting it out, you got to make sure that your fish can tolerate it because it is doing a water chemistry change. So you want to make sure that you don't fluctuate it too much. So if you're doing an RO change on your aquarium, then what you want to do is do it in small increments. So typically with these, like these are 20 gallons, we do 10 to 15%. But the nice thing is that these are all soft aquariums. And what I mean is they're soft watered. These aquariums were started with straight RO. And actually what we do is we remineralize, and we can actually do remineralization in a different video because we're talking about RO today. But with RO, it makes it where the water is softer. And so typically if you buy fish from a fish store that has softer water, you want to do a longer acclimation to adjust to yours because otherwise you'll shock and possibly kill your fish. And we don't want that. Now RO is absolutely amazing because when you buy it for water changes, you don't have to treat it with prime or stability or any of the other chemicals. It can just be added in. Now you never want to test water the same day that you do the water change. Why? Because the water hasn't had a chance to mix. Now, if you test water right away the same day that you're doing your water change, what happens is you're going to get a false reading because the RO water is going to be straight on the top and it's not going to give you an accurate reading. So typically what I say is when you mix RO into your aquarium, give it a couple of days. That way the filter has a chance to turn over the water and mix it up and then test your water. So if you haven't jumped into the world of RO, do so. It will change your life. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing, and we will see you guys next week.